Captain Lee Taemin stared out of the bridge window at the most dangerous thing he had ever seen. The massive ship floated in the darkness of space like a sleeping giant. It was 50 kilometers long and made of black metal that seemed to eat light itself. The Coalition had been studying it for 3 months, and they still knew nothing about it. "Any change in the readings?" Lee asked his science officer. "No, sir," Dr. Park So-young replied, checking her instruments. "The ship is still powered, but it won't respond to anything we try. No communications, no reactions to our scans, nothing." Lee rubbed his tired eyes. He had been in charge of this mission since the beginning, when a mining ship first spotted the vessel in the void sector. This area of space was known for making ships disappear. Most people stayed away from it. But this giant ship just sat there, waiting. The Coalition had sent their best people to study it. Scientists from 12 different alien species had tried everything they could think of. The blue-skinned Altarians brought their most powerful computers. The energy beings called Etherians tried to merge with the ship's systems. The rock-like Kralathans used their strongest tools to cut into the hull. Nothing worked. "Sir, we have visitors," called out Communications Officer Yoon Ji-ho from her station. Lee turned to see a shuttle approaching. He knew who it was before. The docking bay announced it. Commander Veltar, the Altarian military leader, was coming for another meeting. Behind him would be Ambassador Quinder, the Etherian diplomat who spoke for the Coalition Council. 20 minutes later, the two aliens stood in Lee's ready room. Veltar's blue skin was darker than usual, which meant he was angry. Quinder floated beside him as a ball of bright energy, speaking through the room's translation system. "Captain Lee," Veltar said, his voice cold, "the Council is losing patience. This ship is too dangerous to leave alone. It's destroying asteroids just by being here. The space around it bends in ways that could tear apart our ships." "I understand your concerns," Lee replied, "but we can't just blow it up. This ship is technology we've never seen before. It could teach us so much. Or it could kill us all," Quinder's translated voice buzzed. "Our energy scans show weapons inside that ship, weapons that could destroy entire planets. We cannot allow such danger to exist." Lee had heard this argument many times. The aliens were scared. He didn't blame them. The ship was massive and powerful, and nobody could control it. But something inside him said they shouldn't give up yet. Dr. Park So-young had been studying the ship's energy readings for weeks. She had found patterns that reminded her of something, but she couldn't figure out what. The ship's power source was unlike anything in known science. It seemed to run on principles that their best physicists couldn't understand. "Give us more time," Lee said. "Dr. Park thinks she's close to a breakthrough." Veltar's skin grew even darker. "Time? Captain, we have been here for 3 months. Your human scientists have found nothing. Our Kralathan engineers cannot even scratch the hull. The Etherian mind links cannot connect to its systems. This ship does not want to be studied." "Maybe that's the problem," Lee said quietly. "Maybe we're going about this wrong." "What do you mean?" Quinder asked. Lee wasn't sure what he meant. It was just a feeling he had. Every time he looked at the alien ship, something stirred in his mind. It felt familiar somehow, even though he had never seen anything like it. After the aliens left, Lee walked down to the observation deck. Dr. Park was there, as she always was, staring at the black ship and taking notes. "Any new ideas?" he asked. Park looked tired. Her dark hair was messy from running her hands through it. "I keep thinking there's something we're missing. The energy patterns from that ship, they remind me of something. But I can't figure out what." Engineer Choi Woo-jin joined them at the window. He was young but smart, and he had been working on ways to get closer to the ship. "Sir," Woo-jin said, "I've been thinking. What if the ship isn't broken or sleeping? What if it's waiting?" "Waiting for what?" Lee asked. "I don't know. But think about it. A ship this advanced doesn't just drift around in space for no reason. Maybe it's waiting for something specific. Or someone specific." Lee felt that strange stirring in his mind again. He looked at the ship, and for just a moment he could swear he saw lights moving along its hull. But when he blinked, they were gone. That night, Lee couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Wu Jin had said. A ship waiting for someone, but who and why? He went to his computer and pulled up all the files they had on the ship. The first discovery reports, the failed contact attempts, the energy readings. Something had to be there that they missed. Then he found it. Hidden in the energy scans was a pattern that repeated every few hours. Dr. Park had noted it but couldn't figure out what it meant. Lee stared at the numbers on his screen. The pattern looked almost like a heartbeat. The next morning, Lee called his senior staff together. Dr. Park, Engineer Wu Jin, and Technical Specialist Kim Da-yoon gathered in the briefing room. "I want to try something different," Lee announced. "I want to take a small team over to the ship." "Sir," Kim Da-yoon said, "we've tried that. The ship won't let our shuttles get close. The space distortions push them away. Not our shuttles," Lee said. "Our people. In spacesuits. Direct contact." The room went quiet. It was a dangerous idea. If the ship's defenses activated, they would die instantly. "Captain," Dr. Park said slowly, "that could work. We've been trying to contact it with machines. But what if it doesn't? Trust machines? What if it only responds to living beings?" "Or specific living beings," Wu Jin added. Lee nodded. He had the same thought. The ship was waiting for someone. Maybe it was waiting for humans. He couldn't explain why he felt this way, but the feeling was getting stronger every day. "I'm going over there," Lee announced. "Who's with me?" Without hesitation, Dr. Park and Wu Jin volunteered. Kim Da-yoon looked scared but nodded to Da as they prepared for the mission. Lee looked out at the black ship one more time. Deep inside, he felt like he was coming home to a place he had never been. The ship was calling to him, and finally, he was ready to answer. The galaxy's deadliest vessel had stayed silent for 3 months, but Lee had a feeling that was about to change. Soon, they would learn why the ship had been waiting, and why it might have been waiting specifically for them. Commander Veltar and the other aliens would not be happy about this plan. But Lee didn't care anymore. Some risks were worth taking, and this felt like the most important risk of his life. The ship waited in the darkness, its secrets locked away behind walls of impossible technology. But secrets, Lee knew, were only secrets until someone found the right key to unlock them. Tomorrow, they would find out if humans held that key. The shuttle moved slowly toward the massive black ship. Captain Lee Taemin sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls despite his racing heart. Behind him, Dr. Park So-young checked her equipment one more time. Engineer Choi Wu Jin monitored the space distortions that had pushed away every other ship that tried to get close. "Distance, 2 kilometers in closing," Wu Jin reported. "The distortions are still there, but they're weaker than before." Lee felt sweat on his forehead. They were closer to the alien ship than anyone had ever been. The massive hull filled their view screen, black metal stretching in all directions. Strange patterns were carved into its surface, but they were too far away to see clearly. "Sir," Dr. Park said quietly, "I'm reading something strange. The ship's energy output is increasing. It knows we're here. Should we turn back?" asked Technical Specialist Kim Da-yoon from her station. Lee thought about it. The smart thing would be to retreat. But something deep inside told him to keep going. The ship wasn't preparing to attack them. It was waking up. "We keep going," he decided. At 1 kilometer, the distortions completely disappeared. Their shuttle moved smoothly through space as if the ship was welcoming them. Lee could see details on the hull now. The patterns weren't just carved into the metal. They were glowing softly with blue light. "Those symbols," Dr. Park whispered. "I've never seen anything like them, but somehow they look familiar." Lee knew what she meant. The symbols seemed to call to something in his mind, like a half-remembered dream or a song he used to know but had forgotten. 500 meters, Wu Jin called out. "The ship is scanning us, but it's not like any scanner I know. It feels ... gentle." Lee could feel it too. A warm presence touching his thoughts, looking at who he was. It wasn't threatening. It was curious, like meeting an old friend after many years. 100 meters and closing, Lee announced. Everyone ready? They had decided to make physical contact. It was crazy, but everything about this mission was crazy. Lee guided the shuttle until it touched the alien hull with the softest bump possible. The moment the two ships connected, everything changed. Light exploded across the massive hull. Not harsh light, but soft blue and white patterns that spread out from where their shuttle touched. The symbols they had seen before now covered the entire ship, pulsing like a heartbeat. My God, Dr. Park breathed, it's responding to us. The ship's surface began to move. Lee watched in amazement as the solid metal flowed like liquid, creating a perfect airlock around their shuttle. The airlock was exactly the right size and shape for their small ship. How did it know? Kim Dae-yoon asked. How did it know what size to make the airlock? It scanned us, Lee realized. It learned what we needed. Warning lights flashed in their shuttle. The alien ship was filling the airlock with air. Not just any air, but the exact mixture that humans needed to breathe. Temperature, pressure, oxygen levels, everything was perfect. Sir, Woojin said, his voice shaking with excitement, I think it wants us to come inside. Lee looked at his team. They were scared but determined. They had come this far. They couldn't turn back now. Space suits on, he ordered. Just in case. They put on their protective gear and waited for the airlock to finish cycling. When the door opened, they stepped into a corridor that took their breath away. The hallway was built for humans. The height was right, the width was comfortable, even the lighting was warm and gentle. Everything was made of the same flowing black metal, but it didn't feel cold or alien. It felt like coming home. This is impossible, Dr. Park said. This ship is millions of years old. How can it be built for humans? Lee didn't have an answer. He just knew they needed to keep moving. The corridor led deeper into the ship, and something was calling him forward. As they walked, the walls began to glow. Soft light followed their footsteps, lighting the way ahead. The symbols they had seen outside were here too, covering every surface. Some of them pulsed faster when the humans came near. Captain, Kim Dae-yoon said, I'm getting readings from my scanner. The ship is full of power, but it's not weapons. It's computers? No, that's not right. It's more like a brain. A brain? Lee asked. The whole ship thinks, she explained. Every wall, every corridor. It's all one massive thinking machine. They came to a large room filled with strange equipment. In the center was a console that looked almost familiar. It had no buttons or screens, just a smooth surface that glowed when they approached. Dr. Park walked up to it slowly. I think this is a control room, she said. But I don't understand how to use it. Try touching it, Lee suggested. Park reached out and placed her hand on the console. The moment her skin made contact, the entire room came alive. Lights danced across every surface. Holographic displays appeared in the air, showing star maps and data streams in languages they couldn't read, but somehow Lee could almost understand them. The ship is trying to talk to us, he realized, but we don't speak the same language. That's when they heard the voice. It came from everywhere at once, speaking inside their minds rather than through their ears. The words were in perfect human language, but the voice sounded ancient and sad. Finally, the voice said, you have returned. The four humans looked at each other in shock. Lee found his voice first. Who are you? He asked. I am the keeper of memories, the voice replied. I have waited so long for the children to come home. Children? Dr. Park asked. What children? You, the voice said gently. The young ones? Who forgot who they are, but you still carry the old blood. You still have the gift. The holographic displays changed, showing images of space battles and dying worlds. But the strangest thing was the ships in the battles. Some of them looked like human ships, but they were far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. I don't understand, Lee said. You will, the voice promised. But first you must prove you are ready. The others come. The ones who fear what you might become. New alarms started ringing, not from their equipment but from the alien ship itself. The displays showed coalition ships approaching fast. Commander Veltar and his fleet were coming, and they looked ready for war. "They want to destroy me," the voice said sadly. "They are afraid, just like before, but you can save me." "You can." "Save the truth." "What truth?" Lee demanded. "The truth about who you really are," the voice said. "The truth about what happened to your people long ago. The truth about why I have been waiting." Lee felt that strange stirring in his mind again, stronger than ever. This ship knew something about humans that humans themselves had forgotten. Something important. Something that other alien species didn't want them to remember. "What do we need to do?" he asked. "Stay with me," the voice said. "Learn what you have forgotten. But be warned, once you know the truth, you can never go back to the way things were." Through the ship's sensors, Lee could see the coalition fleet getting closer. Their weapons were charging. In a few minutes, they would start shooting. "Captain," Wujin said urgently, "we need to get back to our ship." But Lee wasn't sure they should leave. This ancient vessel held answers to questions he didn't even know he should ask. It knew secrets about humanity that could change everything. The voice spoke again, softer now. "Choose quickly, young one. Stay and learn the truth, or go and remain." In darkness forever, Lee looked at his team. They were waiting for his decision. Outside, alien warships prepared to destroy the most important discovery in human history. The galaxy's deadliest vessel was no longer silent. It was awake, and it wanted to tell them secrets that someone had tried very hard to bury. Lee made his choice. "We stay," Captain Lee Taman said firmly. His team looked at him with surprise, but they nodded. They trusted him, even when he was making the most dangerous decision of their lives. The ancient voice spoke again, warmer now. "Good, you choose wisdom over fear. But we must work quickly. The old enemies approach." The holographic displays changed, showing the coalition fleet in detail. 20 ships surrounded them, weapons ready. Commander Veltar's flagship was at the front, its blue hull gleaming in the starlight. "They're hailing us," Communications Officer Kim Dayan reported, checking her portable equipment. "Put them through," Lee ordered. Commander Veltar's angry face appeared on a small screen. His blue skin was almost black with rage. "Captain Lee, you will return to your ship immediately. We are prepared to destroy that vessel." "Give us more time," Lee replied. "We're learning things you need to know." "No more time," Veltar shouted. "That ship is too dangerous. It has weapons that could destroy us all. We will not let it threaten the galaxy." The connection ended. Lee turned to his team. "Any regrets about staying?" Dr. Park So-young smiled despite her fear. "Are you kidding? This is the greatest discovery in history." "I'm not leaving," Engineer Choi Woo-jin agreed. "If this ship has answers about humanity, we need to hear them." The ancient voice interrupted them. "Come deeper into the ship. There is much to show you, and little time to show it." They followed the glowing lights through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves as they walked. The ship was alive, changing to help them move faster. Soon they reached a massive chamber filled with floating crystals that pulsed with inner light. "This is the memory core," the voice explained. "Here, all knowledge is kept safe. Touch the crystals and see what was hidden from you." Dr. Park reached out to touch the nearest crystal. The moment her fingers made contact, images flooded her mind. She gasped and staggered backward. "What did you see?" Lee asked. "Ships," she whispered. "Human ships, but not like anything we've ever built. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. And there were so many of them." Lee touched another crystal. Suddenly, he was standing on a world covered in gleaming cities. Humans walked the streets, but they looked different somehow. Taller, stronger, with eyes that seemed to hold starlight. These people moved with confidence that came from ruling the galaxy. "The first walkers," the voice said, "your ancestors. They built an empire that stretched across 1,000,000 worlds." "That's impossible," Woo-jin said. "Humans only left Earth a few hundred years ago. We're the youngest species in the galaxy." "That is what you were told," the voice replied sadly. "That is what you were made to believe, but it is not truth." More crystals showed them the real history. Humans had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had built ships that could travel between stars in minutes. They had created technology that seemed like magic. They had been kind rulers, helping younger species grow and learn, but something had gone wrong. The others grew jealous, the voice continued. They saw human power and became afraid. What if humans decided they were no longer needed? What if humans chose to rule with iron fists instead of gentle hands? The crystals showed meetings in dark rooms, alien leaders whispering plans. The same species that now made up the coalition, Altarians, Etherians, Kralathans, and dozens of others. They had worked together to plan something terrible. They called it the Great Purge, the voice said. They attacked without warning. Millions of human worlds burned. Billions died. Lee watched in horror as the crystals showed the war. Human ships fighting desperately against overwhelming numbers. Cities falling from orbit, entire planets turned to ash. But some humans escaped, Dr. Park said, reading the crystal memories. They ran to primitive worlds at the edge of the galaxy. Yes, the voice confirmed. The survivors hit on backward planets. They gave up their technology and their memories to stay safe. They became simple people again, starting over from the beginning. Earth, Lee realized. They hit on Earth. Earth and many other worlds. Over thousands of years, you forgot who you had been. You built new civilizations, but they were pale shadows of what your ancestors achieved. Wujin touched another crystal and saw ships like the one they were on. Hundreds of them, hidden throughout the galaxy. These ships, they're all waiting? Waiting. For humanity to become strong enough to reclaim their birthright, the voice said. Waiting for the children to grow up and remember who they really are? Kim Ji-yoon was scanning the crystals with her equipment. Captain, this ship isn't just showing us history. It's changing us somehow. Our brain patterns are different. We're becoming. More, Lee could feel it too. His thoughts were clearer, faster. He could understand the alien symbols on the walls now. They weren't alien at all. They were ancient human writing. The gift awakens in you, the voice explained. The ability to bond with our technology. Only humans can control these ships because only humans have the right genetic patterns. Suddenly, alarms filled the chamber. The coalition fleet was opening fire. They're shooting at us. Wujin shouted but the ancient ship's shields held easily. The alien weapons couldn't even scratch its hull. On the displays, they could see Commander Veltar's face getting more desperate. He knows, Lee realized. He knows what we're learning and he's terrified. Of course he knows, the voice said. His ancestors helped plan the Great Purge. They thought they had destroyed all evidence of human greatness. But they missed these ships. Double quotes. Dr. Park was still connected to the memory crystals? Her eyes glowed with inner light as ancient knowledge filled her mind. There are others, she said in wonder. Other human worlds where people are starting to remember. The awakening is happening everywhere, which is why they attack now, the voice said. They hope to silence me before more humans learn the truth. Lee felt anger building in his chest. His people had been betrayed, murdered, scattered across the galaxy like refugees, and the species responsible were now pretending to be their friends and allies. What do we do? He asked. You must decide, the voice replied. I can fight them off, but doing so will reveal my full power. The galaxy will know that humans are no longer weak. There will be fear, there may be war, and if we don't fight, then I will go silent again, and the truth dies with me. Your people will remain scattered and weak forever. Lee looked at his team. They had changed during their time in the memory chamber. They stood taller, their eyes brighter. The ancient human heritage was awakening in them. Captain, Dr. Park said, whatever you decide, we're with you. Outside, more coalition ships were arriving. Soon there would be 50 vessels surrounding them. If they chose to fight, it would be the beginning of something huge. Lee thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who didn't know their real history. They deserved to know the truth about who they were and what they had lost. He thought about the other human colonies scattered across the galaxy. Were they having dreams about ships and stars? Were they feeling the same call that had brought him here? The voice spoke once more. Choose quickly, young captain. I have slept for millions of years, but I will not sleep again. Either I die today or I wake up fully and reclaim my place among the stars. Lee touched the central crystal with both hands. Power flowed through him like fire. He could feel the ship's weapons, its engines, its vast intelligence. For the first time in his life, he felt complete. "Then we wake up," he said, "all of us." The ancient ship began to sing. The ship's song was like nothing Captain Lee Tae-min had ever heard. It wasn't sound exactly, but something deeper that touched his soul. Around him, the memory crystals pulsed brighter as the ancient vessel fully awakened from its long sleep. Doctor Park, so young, gasped as more knowledge flowed into her mind. "Lee, you need to see this. The memory crystals are showing me something new, something about the war itself." She touched a crystal that glowed red with painful memories. Images filled the chamber around them, not just pictures but full scenes they could walk through like ghosts. They stood in what looked like a great council chamber. Beings from dozens of species sat around a massive table. Lee recognized some of them, early versions of the Altarians, Etherians, and Kralathans they knew today. "This is the planning meeting," the ship's voice explained, "where they decided to destroy your people." A tall Altarian was speaking. "The humans grow too powerful. Their ships are better than ours. Their technology advances too quickly. Soon, they will not need us at all." An Etherian energy being pulsed with agreement. "They speak of peace and friendship, but we know the truth. All species seek dominance. When they are strong enough, they will crush us." "Better to act first," added a Kralathan leader, his rock-like skin glowing with inner heat. "Strike before they expect it. Scatter them to the edges of space where they can cause no harm." Lee watched in horror as the conspiracy grew. These weren't evil beings plotting for fun. They were scared leaders who thought they were protecting their people. But their fear had made them do something terrible. They didn't just want to defeat us, Engineer Choi Woo-jin realized, reading another crystal. They wanted to make sure we could never threaten them again. "Yes," said the ship. "They used weapons that attacked memory itself, devices that made humans forget their own history. They turned your greatest strength against you." "What strength?" asked technical specialist Kim Dae-in. More crystals showed the answer. Humans in the ancient empire hadn't just built great ships and cities. They had been able to connect with technology in ways other species couldn't. They could make machines work just by thinking about it. They could heal themselves and live for hundreds of years. They could even share thoughts and memories with each other. "The gift," Dr. Park whispered. "That's what you called it before. Humans could bond with machines." "More than that," the ship corrected. "Humans could bond with anything. Other humans, animals, even planets themselves. You were meant to be the bridge between all living things in the galaxy." But the memory-destroying weapons had taken that away. The surviving humans who escaped to Earth and other primitive worlds had lost their abilities. They became ordinary people who aged and died quickly, who couldn't hear the songs of stars or speak with machines. "That's why the Coalition accepted us so easily when we developed space travel," Lee realized. "We weren't a threat anymore. We were just another weak species." "They thought the danger was over," the ship agreed. "But they were wrong. The gift cannot be destroyed, only hidden. It passes from parent to child, waiting for the right moment to return." Outside the ship, the Coalition fleet was getting desperate. Commander Veltar was shouting orders at his captains. More ships arrived every hour, but their weapons still couldn't hurt the ancient vessel. "Sir," Woo-jin said, monitoring the external sensors, "they're discussing something called Protocol 7. Do you know what that is?" The ship's voice became worried. "Show me." The displays revealed Coalition ships moving into a specific pattern around them. Lee didn't recognize it, but the ship clearly did. "They remember some things from the old war," the ship said grimly. "Protocol 7 was designed to crack open ships like me. It won't destroy me, but it might break my shields long enough for them to get inside. Is that bad?" Kim Dae-yoon asked. "Very bad. If they board me while you are still connected to the memory crystals, the feedback could kill you." Or worse, it could erase the knowledge you've gained. Dr. Park was still deep in the crystal memories. Wait, she said suddenly. I'm seeing something else. There are other humans out there. Humans who never forgot. The crystal showed hidden colonies scattered across the galaxy. Small groups of humans who had kept some of their ancient knowledge alive. They lived in secret, pretending to be simple traders or explorers, but they were really guardians. The Watchers, the ship explained. They have been preparing for this day. When one of the ancient ships awakens, they know to come. They're coming here? Lee asked. Yes, but they may not arrive in time to help us. The coalition fleet completed their formation. Energy began building between their ships, creating a web of power that focused on the ancient vessel. They're starting Protocol 7, Wu Jin reported. Whatever it does, it's happening now. The ship shuddered as alien energy struck its shields. The lights in the memory chamber flickered and several crystals went dark. I cannot maintain the memory connection much longer, the ship warned. You must choose what knowledge to take with you. Lee looked at his team. They were all changing, becoming more than they had been before. Dr. Park's eyes glowed with inner light. Wu Jin moved with new confidence. Kim Di-yoon's fingers danced over her equipment like she was playing music. How much can we hold? He asked. Enough to begin the awakening, the ship replied. But not everything. The rest must wait for other humans to find other ships. Lee made his decision quickly. Give us what we need to wake up our people. Show us where the other ships are hidden. And tell us how to defend ourselves when the coalition realizes what's happening. Knowledge flowed into their minds like a river. Star maps showing dozens of hidden vessels. Techniques for awakening the gift in other humans. And most importantly, the location of the largest cache of ancient human technology in the galaxy. There, the ship said. It is done. You are no longer just humans. You are the bridge between what was and what will be. The ship shuddered again. As Protocol 7 intensified, cracks appeared in some of the crystal formations. You must go now, the ship urged. Return to your people. Begin the awakening. I will hold them off as long as I can. What will happen to you? Dr. Park asked. I will do what I was built to do, the ship replied. I will protect humanity's future even if it costs me my existence. Lee felt tears on his cheeks. This ancient mind had waited millions of years just to give them this knowledge. Now it was willing to die to keep them safe. There has to be another way, he said. Perhaps, the ship said hopefully. If the Watchers arrive in time. If other ancient ships wake up. If humanity remembers who they really are before it's too late. The lights were fading now as Protocol 7 ate away at the ship's defenses. But Lee could still feel the vast intelligence surrounding them, still fighting to protect the knowledge it contained. Go, the ship whispered. Wake up the galaxy. Show them that humanity has returned. As they ran back through the corridors toward their shuttle, Lee made a promise to the dying ship. Humanity would remember. The galaxy would learn the truth. And the beings who had tried to destroy his people would face justice at last. But first, they had to survive long enough to get home. Captain Lee Taemin and his team ran through the ship's corridors as the ancient vessel shook around them. Protocol 7 was tearing at the shields like hungry claws. The beautiful blue lights that had guided them before now flickered and dimmed. The airlock is just ahead. Engineer Choi Woo-jin shouted over the noise of groaning metal, but when they reached their shuttle, they found a problem. The ship's hull was shifting and changing as it fought off the coalition attack. Their small shuttle was trapped inside metal that flowed like water. We're stuck, technical specialist Kim Di-yoon said, panic in her voice. The ship's voice spoke to them, weaker now but still determined. I am sorry. My systems are failing. I cannot control the hull changes anymore. Dr. Park So-young pressed her hands against the moving metal. With her new abilities, she could feel the ship's pain as Protocol 7 ate away at its defenses. There has to be something we can do. Lee closed his eyes and reached out with his awakened senses. The knowledge the ship had given him was still settling into his mind, but he could feel new abilities growing stronger. He touched the wall and tried to communicate with the ship's systems directly. "Let me help," he said, not with his voice but with his thoughts. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's voice returned, stronger than before. "Yes. You understand now, we can work together." Lee felt his consciousness merge partially with the ancient vessel. Through its sensors, he could see the coalition fleet surrounding them. 60 ships now, all pouring energy into the Protocol 7 matrix. Commander Veltar's face was grim with determination on the command screens, but Lee could also see something else. New ships approaching from the edge of the system. Ships that looked different from coalition vessels. Older in design, but somehow more elegant. The Watchers, he realized, they're coming. The ship's hull finally released their shuttle. As his team strapped in, Liam maintained his connection with the ancient vessel. He could feel its weapon systems, terrible devices that had slept for millions of years. "I can fight them off," the ship offered. "My weapons are still far beyond anything they have." "No," Lee said firmly. "If you attack, you'll prove their fears right. They'll say humans are dangerous and warlike. We need a different solution." Through the ship's sensors, Lee watched the approaching Watchers. There were only 5 ships, but something about them made the coalition fleet nervous. These vessels had the same flowing design as the ancient ship, but smaller and clearly built by modern humans. "Captain Lee," came a new voice over the communications system. "This is Commander Han Sung-min of the human vessel Starseeker. We are here to help." Lee had never heard of any human ship called Starseeker. According to everything he knew, humans didn't have ships that advanced, but the knowledge in his head told him otherwise. These were the descendants of humans who had never forgotten their heritage. "Commander Han," Lee replied, "we need time to get clear of the ancient ship." "Understood. We will create a distraction." The 5 Watcher ships moved into formation between the coalition fleet and the ancient vessel. They were tiny compared to the alien warships, but something about their presence made Protocol 7 falter. Commander Veltar's angry voice crackled over the communications. "Unknown human vessels, withdraw immediately. You are interfering with a coalition security operation." "Commander." Han's reply was calm but firm. "The coalition has no authority over ancient human vessels or the humans who board them. You are the ones who should withdraw." "Ancient human vessels?" Veltar sounded confused. "That ship is alien technology. Humans don't have ships like that." "You are wrong," Han said simply. "And it is time the galaxy knew the truth." One of the Watcher ships projected a hologram into space, not at the coalition fleet, but broadcasting on all frequencies so every world in the galaxy could see it. The hologram showed the same historical images Lee had seen in the memory crystals: the great human empire, the conspiracy, the war that had scattered humanity across the stars. Lee could see the effect on the coalition commanders through the ancient ship's sensors. Some looked shocked, others looked guilty. A few looked terrified. "Lies!" Veltar shouted. "Human propaganda!" But Ambassador Quinder's energy form was pulsing with patterns that Lee's new knowledge told him meant deep shame. The Etherean diplomat knew the hologram was true. "Captain Lee," Commander Han called, "can you pilot that ancient ship?" Lee was still connected to the vessel's systems. He could feel its vast power waiting for his commands. "I think so, but where do we go? They'll just follow us." "To the gathering point," Han replied. "It's time to wake up all the sleepers," the ancient ship's voice spoke in Lee's mind. "Yes, I understand now. I was never meant to fight alone. I was meant to call the others." Lee felt the ship's communication systems powering up. Not the simple radio signals that modern ships used, but something deeper. A call that would reach across the galaxy to every hidden human vessel. "Do it," Lee said. The song that emerged from the ancient ship was beautiful and terrible. It wasn't heard with ears, but felt in the soul. Every human in the galaxy would feel that call, whether they understood it or not. Dr. Park gasped as she felt the ship's message spreading outward faster than light itself. "It's not just calling to ships. It's calling to all humans. Everywhere." Earth, humans would stop what they were doing and look up at the stars with sudden longing. On colony worlds, people would have dreams of flying between distant suns. In deep space, human traders and explorers would feel an urgent need to come home to something they had never seen. The Coalition fleet was backing away now. Not from fear of the ancient ship's weapons, but from the realization of what was happening. Humanity was waking up, and they couldn't stop it. All ships, Veltar ordered desperately. Maximum power to Protocol 7. We must destroy that vessel before... His words were cut off as new contacts appeared on every sensor screen. Ships were jumping into the system from all directions. Ancient vessels that had hidden in dead systems and asteroid fields for millions of years, they were awakening and answering the call, but it wasn't just the old ships. Human vessels from across the galaxy were coming too. Colony ships that suddenly remembered how to travel faster than light. Trading vessels whose crews discovered hidden abilities. Even some Coalition ships with human crew members were breaking formation and joining the growing fleet. "My God," Wujin whispered, watching the display. "Look how many there are." Li could see them through the ancient ship's enhanced sensors. Hundreds of vessels, then thousands, all converging on this one point in space where humanity had decided to remember who they really were. The song continued, and with each note, more ships answered. More humans awakened. More of the galaxy learned that its youngest species was actually its oldest and most powerful. Commander Veltar's fleet was completely outnumbered now. The Altarian commander's blue skin had gone pale with shock. "This is impossible," he whispered. Li felt the ancient ship gathering power, not for weapons but for something else. Something that would change everything. "What are you doing?" he asked. "What I was built to do," the ship replied. "I am the herald. I announce the return of humanity to the stars, and I make sure the galaxy never forgets again." The ship began to glow, brighter and brighter, until it outshone the local star. The light wasn't harmful, but it was impossible to ignore. Every world in the galaxy would see it. Every species would know that something fundamental had changed. Li understood now. The test wasn't whether humans could control the ancient ship. The test was whether they were ready to reclaim their place in the galaxy, without becoming the tyrants their ancestors might have been. As the light faded, Li made his choice about what kind of leader humanity needed now. The light from the ancient ship faded, leaving space filled with thousands of human vessels. Captain Li Taemin stood in the memory chamber, still connected to the ship's vast consciousness. Around him, his team watched in awe as history changed. Before their eyes. "Captain," Dr. Park So-young said softly, "what do we do now?" Li could feel the weight of the moment. Every human in the galaxy was looking to him for guidance. The ancient ship had chosen him as its voice, and through him, humanity would decide its future. Commander Veltar's desperate voice crackled over the communications. "This is madness. You cannot simply claim ownership of the galaxy. The Coalition will not allow it." Li took a deep breath and opened a channel to broadcast to every ship in the system. When he spoke, his words carried the authority of the ancient vessel and the wisdom it had shared with him. "Commander Veltar," he said calmly, "we are not claiming ownership of anything. We are simply remembering who we are." The holographic displays showed the Coalition fleet, greatly outnumbered but still maintaining their aggressive formation. Li could see the fear in their commanders' faces. They were remembering the old stories their ancestors had told them about powerful humans who ruled the stars. "Your ancestors were afraid," Li continued, addressing not just Veltar but every species in the Coalition. "They thought that if humans became too powerful, we would destroy them. So they destroyed us first." Commander Han So-min's voice joined the conversation. "But they were wrong about us then, and they are wrong about us now," Li nodded, even though Han couldn't see him. "We don't want to rule the galaxy. We never did. Our ancestors built an empire, yes, but it was built on cooperation and friendship. The evidence is in your own histories if you look for it." The ancient ship projected new holograms into space. These showed the truth about the old human empire. Not the conquering army the Coalition feared, but a civilization that had helped younger species develop technology, medicine, and art. Humans had been teachers and guardians, not tyrants. "This is propaganda," Veltar shouted, but his voice carried less conviction than before. Ambassador Quinder's energy form pulsed with the patterns that Lee now knew meant deep thought. The Etherean diplomat was old enough to remember stories from the time before. The Great Purge. "Commander Veltar," Quinder said slowly, "perhaps we should listen." Lee felt the ancient ship's approval. The vessel had waited millions of years for this moment, not for revenge, but for reconciliation. "We remember the pain of what was done to us," Lee said. "Billions of our people died. Our civilization fell. We were scattered and made to forget who we were, but we also remember why it happened. You were afraid, and fear makes people do terrible things." Dr. Park stepped forward, her new abilities allowing her to project her voice clearly across space. "We offer you something different now. Not human rule, but true partnership. The galaxy working together, each species contributing their strengths." Engineer Choi Woo-jin was monitoring the responses from the human ships. "Captain, the fleet is waiting for your orders. They're ready to fight if necessary." Lee could feel the power at his disposal. Thousands of ships, many with weapons that could destroy planets. The ancient vessel alone could probably defeat the entire coalition fleet. For a moment, he understood the temptation his ancestors might have felt, but that wasn't who he wanted humanity to become. "Stand down," he ordered. "All human ships, defensive positions only. We will not fire unless fired upon." The ancient ship's voice spoke in his mind. "You choose wisdom over strength. Your ancestors would be proud." Technical. Specialist Kim Dayu was reading energy patterns from across the galaxy. "Sir, it's not just ships that are awakening. I'm getting reports from human colonies everywhere. People are remembering things they never learned. They're building things they shouldn't know how to build," Lee nodded. The awakening was spreading faster than light itself, carried by the same force that connected all human minds. Soon every human in the galaxy would have access to their ancient heritage. "That could be dangerous," Commander Han warned over the communications. "If humans suddenly gain powerful abilities without learning to control them, then we teach them," Lee said firmly. "The way our ancestors should have taught other species instead of keeping knowledge to themselves." He opened a channel to the Coalition fleet. "Commander Veltar, Ambassador Quinder, I have a proposal." "We're listening," Quinder replied cautiously. "Send representatives to the ancient ship. See the real history for yourselves. Learn what actually happened and why. Then help us figure out how to move forward together." Veltar's laugh was harsh. "You expect us to board that vessel? To trust you with our lives?" "I expect you to trust us with the galaxy's future," Lee replied, "because that's what you're going to have to do anyway. Humanity is awake now. We're not going back to sleep. You can either work with us or against us." The ancient ship began to change around them. The memory crystals rearranged themselves into a council chamber with seats for dozens of different species. It was preparing to host negotiations. "The ship is offering neutral ground," Dr. Park observed. "A place where all species can meet as equals." Lee felt the rightness of it. This was what the ancient vessel had been built for, not to wage war, but to bring different peoples together. Commander Han's ships began moving into escort formation around the coalition fleet. "We guarantee safe passage for any delegates who wish to come aboard." It took several hours, but eventually shuttles began launching from the coalition ships. Not all of them. Some commanders were too afraid or too proud to negotiate, but enough to make a start. Ambassador Quinder was the first to board, followed by a young Altarian officer named Sub-Commander Jae-sung, who seemed more curious than frightened. Representatives from a dozen other species came too, their faces showing mixtures of fear and wonder. Lee met them in the council chamber, no longer just a human captain, but something more. The ancient ship's knowledge flowed through him, giving him understanding of dozens of languages and cultures. "Welcome," he said, and the ship translated his words into every language at once. "Thank you for coming." Now, let us talk about the future. The negotiations lasted for days. There were arguments and accusations, moments when it seemed like violence was inevitable, but slowly understanding grew. The alien delegates saw the true history of the human empire. They learned about the conspiracy that had destroyed it, and they began to understand that the awakened humans offered partnership, not conquest. Not every species accepted immediately. Some coalition worlds declared independence rather than work with humans, others prepared for war. But enough chose cooperation to make Lee hopeful for the future. The ancient ship eventually released its hold on him, satisfied that its mission was complete. As Lee's consciousness returned fully to his own body, he felt different, changed. He carried within him not just knowledge of the past, but responsibility for the future. Dr. Park, Wu Gin, and Kim Da-yoon had all been transformed as well. They would become teachers, helping other humans learn to use their awakened abilities safely. Commander Han offered Lee a place among the Watchers, the secret guardians who had preserved human knowledge through the dark years. But Lee had a different idea. I want to build something new, he said. Not the old empire, but something better. A true confederation where every species has a voice. The ancient ship approved. Its hull began to glow with new symbols, not the war sigils of old, but patterns representing hope and cooperation. Months later, Lee stood on the bridge of a new kind of vessel. Part ancient human technology, part modern innovation, and part contributions from alien allies who had chosen to work with humanity rather than fear it. The galaxy was changing. Humans were reclaiming their heritage, but they were doing it differently this time. They were teachers instead of rulers, guides instead of conquerors. Not everyone was happy about it. There were still those who preferred the old ways, who wanted humans to remain weak and scattered. There would be conflicts ahead, Lee knew. Challenges that would test whether humanity had truly learned from its ancestors' mistakes. But as he looked out at the stars, Lee felt hope. The galaxy's deadliest vessel had stayed silent for millions of years, waiting for the right moment to wake up. It had tested humanity and found them worthy, not of power alone, but of the wisdom to use that power well. The ship's final message echoed in his mind. The inheritors have returned. The galaxy remembers. Now write a better future than the one that came before. Lee smiled and gave the order to jump to hyperspace. There was work to do, worlds to visit, and a galaxy to help heal. Humanity was awake again, and this time they would not sleep alone.